There is a place, not here or there, but somewhere in between. There is a space in the thin air that really can't be seen. If you listen and observe, you may be surprised. Some may call it Camelot or even paradise. Some may say you cross a bridge, others through a door. But all I know about this place is that I call it Evermore. Evermore. Hello, sweet spirits. Welcome to the show. My name is Suzanne Sorrell, and I'm the host of the Evermore Paranormal Network. On this episode, I brought some of my friends with me, my haunted dolls. So let's begin. Just real quickly, I'm just going to tell you their names and pay attention. While I'm talking, we'll tell you their stories in the next segment. But the girl up front, this is Rosie. This is Betsy, Priscilla, and Pearl. And I'll tell you their stories in the next segment. But right now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about haunted dolls, just some background information. First of all, I'm not a haunted doll expert. I'm simply a doll collector. But because I own about 1,000 dolls, I've started to have a problem. Some of my dolls are acting up, and I realized that I guess they're haunted. So I am trying to learn myself about haunted dolls and how to handle the ones that are troublemakers. So what is a haunted doll? Well, it's basically a doll that contains some kind of supernatural energy. And before I go any further, I'm using a little booklet that's called Haunted Doll Collector's Guide. And it's simply by someone named Thorne. I don't think they really even want people to know that they wrote this. But anyway, I needed some info, and I just started with that. So there are different kinds of energy that a doll can contain. There's spirit energy. Spirit energy was once a human, somebody that was not ready to cross over, or they met a tragic ending. And the spirits go in search of a new body. Or dolls are the closest thing that resemble a human body. So, well, that's why they're pretty common to use, the spirits use dolls to reside in. Now you have demon energy. Demon energy is where the energy goes into a doll to tempt or cause problems for the living. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. Then there's also angel energy. Sometimes angels will go into a doll to assist someone in special need or bestow a blessing. But angels only stay very short time in the doll to do what they came to do and leave. Then there's djinn. These are known as genies. They're considered to be even more negative and worse than demons. I don't know a lot about those because I try to avoid any really negative stuff. But then we got entities, another kind of energy that can go into a doll. Now an entity comes from another dimension. It was never human. And they reside in a doll or some other object, and they actually will reside in other things besides a doll. They just want to observe. They don't interact with the living, and they stay for a short time, and then they may move around from object to object. And then the last type of energy is a spell that's been, somebody has used a doll to send energy, cast a spell on the doll, and that is basically they've invoked magic and they place that magic into the doll for a specific purpose. And so those are the different types of energy that can be in any of these dolls that are sitting in front of me. I don't think these dolls that I brought today are too dangerous. Of the three, this is the one that I worry about the most. So, when you have a doll that may be haunted, where do you keep the doll? It just depends on the type of energy that's in the doll. If it's a doll that's haunted by somebody that's passed on, someone that was once human, they're probably the least of our worries. You can keep those you need to keep them away from being handled. You don't want to handle them. Preferably put them in a case. And putting them in a case, like their own case or a curio case or something, it will control their activity and what they do. Spell dolls, dolls that have spells cast on them, should never be handled unless you're actually carrying out some kind of spell. And then demon dolls, well, they have to be put in like cedar boxes with an amulet or a talisman to help control them from moving around, going from place to place. So, how should we communicate with dolls? What are the different ways to communicate? And I'm going to try to communicate with these dolls on the third segment of the show. But the different ways are using a pendulum, and I'll show you that at the end of the show. It's just, I used it in another show, but it's just a pendulum. You hang it in front of the doll or over the doll. Ask yes or no questions. I'll tell you about that more when we do it later. Use an EMF meter, which is electromagnetic field detector, that will indicate whether there's some kind of paranormal energy. However, you need to know that just because I hold an EMF detector in front of this doll and it doesn't light up doesn't mean that there isn't energy there. The energy spirit energy can come and go from the doll. It's not tied to the doll. Then we have, you could do a seance. I'm not really fond about doing a seance. You would put the doll in the middle of 4 candles, holding hands, making a circle and holding hands with other people to have an unbroken chain and start asking questions. And just make sure you don't, let go of somebody's hand, because you're going to let go of that energy that may be able to escape that circle. You can also use Ouija boards in a similar way, asking questions. But the problem with Ouija boards is things can come through other than the doll. So you got to keep asking and making sure, am I talking to the doll? Am I talking to whoever the doll is? Now, some tips about having haunted dolls. Never use a doll to scare someone. If you're going to give a haunted doll to someone, make sure that you tell them that it's haunted. That's just something obvious that you should do. Dolls, in general, will not communicate with you unless you talk to them. So, and I do have some that have talked to me on their own, but generally, you have to open the lines of communication, the ways that I just alluded to. Don't mess with their clothes. It bothers them, it will tick them off, and it will also stir up energy. If this doll hasn't done anything and I take its clothes off, the next day it may be doing something because it's mad that I messed with it. Always treat your dolls with care and respect, as if, there may be a spirit energy in the doll, formerly a human being. Thus, you're going to treat them with respect and care. Never damage, break, or do anything negative to a doll, because when you do, it may anger the doll, and if you break this doll, now this one's not really breakable, but this one's porcelain. If you break a doll, the spirit that's in it may get ticked off, and it's not in that doll anymore. It goes to some other object or another doll, and then you got to go trying to figure out what happened. Where's it at now? And obviously, you should never let children play with a haunted doll. If you know the doll is haunted, it's not a toy anymore, okay? So children should not play with haunted dolls. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
My journey skating for the gold taught me a lot, but my journey with breast cancer has been one of my greatest teachers.
Every woman's breast cancer is unique. Be Wiser educates and empowers women to take control of their breast cancer treatment plan and help navigate their own path beyond 5 years.
Talk to your doctor about information and tests to personalize a treatment plan that fits your needs. I did. Be informed, be wiser, support survivors like us.
So, have I scared you a little bit? Are you looking around going, I wonder if one of my dolls is haunted? Well, there's a pretty good chance if you have a lot of dolls that one of them contains some kind of, energy. And like I said earlier, it depends on what kind of energy as to how to handle it. So, how do you name your dolls? Well, dolls may want to change their name with each owner. And so, to find out the name of the doll, and I've already done this with these dolls, you hold the doll and you simply ask, what's your name? And the first thing that comes to mind, that's the name. But then you want to use some of these techniques I mentioned earlier to literally ask them, is this the name that you want? And we'll test that out in the last segment. But sometimes, in general, old dolls usually have had their name for a long time and they want to stick with that. Again, you open lines of communication and start talking to them. Now, what are the signs that there's something evil? Okay, there's certain energy that's residing in a doll that is not human, but a negative energy. Here are some of the warning signs. There's physical destruction. They make attacks on the living. There's sickness in the home. People start getting sick and you don't know why. Nightmares are kind of warnings. Bad luck, a general heavy feeling all the time. Foul smells, I know you've all heard of that. If you smell something foul and there's no logical explanation for it, it may be something negative. Also, scary visual energy, if you see scary things as well. So if you experience any of these signs, you may, and I mean may, not necessarily, have a demon. But that's very rare. More likely, it's just an angry spirit. So you definitely don't want that kind of energy in your house. So you need to get it removed from your home and get that doll out of your house, but do not harm the doll. Because if you damage the doll, if you break it, destroy it, disrespect it, that energy that's in the doll may leave the doll and go to another object, and you don't know what's going on. You don't know what that object is now. Yeah. For me, I'd rather know where it's at so I can deal with it. So when you no longer want a haunted doll, and you have to find someone that does want it. You need to sell it or give it to someone, let them know what you're giving them, and that's called passing of the doll. And so now let me tell you about my girls here. We'll start over here with Rosie. I want to tell you quickly what these dolls do. Rosie, I had the doll for a long time, and recently, I mean, I'm talking years, I had her, and I'm an antiques and collectibles dealer, and I'd bought her cheaply and was going to resell her. I've had her for years. Nobody wants to buy her. Recently, I was doing a craft project, and I have like 100 dolls laying there, all little ones like that. And she was like those other dolls, and all of a sudden I started smelling roses. And I'd never paid attention to this doll before. She never stood out whatsoever. Strong, strong sense of roses and flowers. So I named her Rosie. But when I picked the doll up, she wanted attention. And this just happened a few weeks ago. When I picked the doll up, it felt like I had a spring bust in my head, in the middle of my brain. I mean, it was scary. I thought I literally had an aneurysm or something that just happened. I started having high-pitched ringing in my ears, and I got dizzy and nauseous, and I had to sit down. I even called my husband and said, honey, I may be going to the hospital. I wanted to get my last words into him in case I was dying. Put the doll down. I was okay. So I don't want to handle this doll anymore, and I haven't talked to her yet, but I named her Rosie because of the floral scent that she gives off to let me know that she's around, and her rosy cheeks. This doll, I named her Betsy. Betsy I got a few months ago. We went to a big garage sale, flea market down in Fredericksburg, and we went to, it was at the convention center in Fredericksburg. Well, that wasn't that exciting, so we decided to go to the Old Town historic part of Fredericksburg and look at some of the antique malls down there. Anyway, I spot this doll in the lower level of the basement, and I had to have her. And she's really beautiful. She has 5 other outfits, perfect outfits with her, and she was in a nasty box. And so I had to have her. I went to the front, to the desk up front to ask, what the price was on her. She was only $35, and I was so excited to get her. But when I got home, nothing happened, right? The next morning, I was so excited to play with her, change her outfits, and so on. I got her out of the car. I start taking the nasty old tape off of the box, and what did I see? I saw the name Betsy. That's why she has the name Betsy. And a last name, which I'm not telling anyone because it was the original owner, who is probably also residing in this